Welcome to the New World Order Showcase Podcast. Your host, Jill Hart, the Coach's Alchemist. Couldn't be more excited to have you join us today. On this podcast, we celebrate the champions of change, the up-and-coming life, health and transformational coaches who are fearlessly stepping forward to make a difference in the world. Get ready for inspiring stories, practical tips, and powerful moments that will motivate you to make a positive change in your life and those around you. We're happy to have you join us on this incredible journey as we dive into the world of life, health, and transformational coaches who are lighting up the path towards a better tomorrow.
Hi, and welcome to the New World Order Showcase podcast. I'm your host, Jill Hart, and with us today we have Cindy Van Arnhem, who is a life coach and podcast host, universal laws business coach, and master numerologist. Cindy specializes in helping online coaches, healers, and spiritual teachers turn their multi-passionate ideas and cosmic downloads into a full-time gig without the dreaded burnout. She has been featured on channels such as Amazon Prime, Pursuit 365, Now, Honors Las Vegas, and the Family Network, and is a 10X best-selling collaborative author, as well as host of Life at Full Blast podcast. Welcome to the show, Cindy.
Thank you. What an introduction. And I do that all without burnout.
Well, that is really key. So let's start at the beginning. Tell us your story, because inquiring minds need to know.
Right? Yes, I know. I grew up on a tiny little farm in rural Alberta, Canada. Very happy childhood until I turned 16 and my dad died suddenly. He fell on the ground in a heart attack and died immediately. And I just happened to be there when it happened. And obviously that would have changed a lot in my life. And I started making decisions in my life that weren't great. I immediately assumed that the universe didn't have my back, that men would abandon me. I created this belief system and I stopped caring. And from there, you name the bad decision, Cindy's made it. Cocaine addiction, heavy cocaine addiction for 3 years, abusive relationships out the yin yang. And me being the rebel that I am, I moved to a third world country that had the death penalty if you do drugs, rather than go to formal treatment. So
you're cutting off your own legs despite your nose.
Pretty much. So throughout the whole 3 years of cocaine addiction, my mom she was just there for me. And she knew that formal treatment wouldn't work for me. I've always been a rule breaker. I've never been somebody you can tell what to do. And I don't play well inside a box. It just doesn't work for me. And she kept saying this statement over and over again. I love you, but I don't love your actions. And finally, I heard it, that somebody loved me. And it gave me enough gumption to love myself enough to get out. So I moved to Indonesia for a year, and I lived in Indonesia, taught English as a second language, hated it. It wasn't a good fit for me, but I knew that if I came back, I would fall back into old habits. Then I met a cute Kenyan boy on the dance floor in Indonesia, and he invited me to move to Dubai and live with him. So I did that because they also have very strict drug policies in Dubai.
And alcohol too.
Yeah. And but then my mom got really sick and I had to come home. So I came home and of course fell back in with the same crowd and started making the same decisions. But at that point, I knew that something needed to change. And my mom is okay, by the way. She's with us and well and alive. She'll probably listen to this episode. But I knew I needed to make some changes. So I started diving into personal development. And I started following all the quote unquote gurus, right? The T. Harv Eker, the Brendan Burchards, the Tony Robbins. And I read the Quran front to back. I read the Bible front to back because I was just trying to find the answer to who I was and not finding it. And so, I'd never held a job for more than a year, skipping from one thing to the next. You name the job, I've probably done it, from pipelining in Alberta to psychic hotline. And then I found myself bartending at a dive bar. And I actually had a baseball bat behind the bar in order to protect myself because I was closing the bar at night by myself. I didn't actually have to use the bat, but I did have to threaten with it one night. And that was it. At that point, I was done. I got in my car that night and I was like, you are so much better than this. There's got to be something more to life than this. And I drove home that night and a song came on the radio called You Are the Fire by Hailstorm. And in that song, there is a line that said, you are the one you've been waiting for. And it clicked. All of a sudden, I was like, oh my God, here I am searching everywhere for somebody to tell me what to do. I have the answers. So I got on Google 3:00 in the morning and I decided I was going to go back to school to do event and promotions management. I hated that too. But in that, I actually built a business as a virtual assistant out of the things I was learning in the college program I was in. Because event and promotions management, online business, very similar, right? And so I built a business as a virtual assistant and started helping coaches, healers, spiritual teachers build the back end of their business because I was really good with technology. Almost loved it, except I had a belief that growing up on a farm, in order to make any money, you've got to work really hard. You've got to hustle. And within 8 months, I was in adrenal fatigue, absolutely burnt out. I was working 7 days a week, 15-hour days, just hustle. The harder I work, the more money I'll make, except my bank account was showing the exact opposite. The harder you work, the less money I would make. And I met a woman at a live event that I was at, and she was talking about this thing called numbers. And I was like, I don't know, seems a little far-fetched to me. It's pretty out there. It's pretty woo-woo. Me being a very logical, scientific minded, I need the rational proof.
And on a farm, that's how you are.
Right? Exactly. I grew up with an engineer as a father. Like, we talk about the reality that is in front of us. But there was something about it that just kept pulling me in. And so I took a huge leap. And she actually said to me, she said, if you meditated, you'd make more money. And I thought, what? You're crazy. But what did I have to lose, right? At this point, I was in adrenal fatigue. I was like burning the candle at both ends. I was done. So I thought, okay, well, I'll try. So I took a leap of faith and I invested money that I didn't have in hiring her for a year. And learned numerology, began to understand how the universe works, learned universal law, and everything changed in that year. I had my first $20,000 month. I had my first $40,000 month, and I was working half the amount of time that I had been working before. So then I became a universal laws business coach and started diving down that rabbit hole. So that is my story in a very short version, Coles Note version.
Yeah, that's a wild story. So, gosh, we'll just start with the numerology part because and I want to ask you about the Egyptian numerology and how that's different.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in numerology, and it's not like an astrology and tarot cards, all of those things, but I don't think they're predictive of your future. It's not like looking into the crystal ball and saying this is ordained to be. It's just designed to help you think about things. It's like a Rorschach test. Here's the ink blot. What do you see in that? And what does it mean to you?
Yeah.
So, with that said, how does Egyptian numerology differ from the numerology that is traditionally practiced around here?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, I love that you brought that up, that it's not a divination tool. It's not fortune telling. Anything that we see in front of us is just a reflection of what we're already thinking and feeling. So tarot cards, oracle cards, anything like that, it's just giving us feedback of what's actually happening inside, right? So regular numerology.
Yeah.
Right? What's regular? But there's a Pythagorean system of numerology that would be what people would look up their life path number, things like that. And I do that numerology as well. But Astro-Egyptian numerology is a combination of using lunar cycles and a little bit of astrology and the playing cards. So the playing cards have been with us since at least ancient Egypt, if not before that. We can't actually prove where they came from, so we just call it Egyptian numerology. But the deck of playing cards is actually really fascinating, the history behind it. The deck of playing cards has 4 suits. We have 4 seasons. If you add up all of the numbers of the cards in the deck, you get 364. And then the Joker equals a quarter of each season, which is 365, a full year, right? And so we use these combination of the suits and the numbers together to give us a feel for what's possible in our experience. So we have a life path number. For example, I'm a life path ruling 4, but I'm also in the deck of playing cards a 5 of diamonds. And so those two things layer on top of each other. And what I have discovered with the Egyptian numerology, it is the most accurate system I've ever seen. I've used tarot. I use oracle cards to this day. I still do tarot card readings for myself. I don't do it for clients, but nothing has been more accurate in showing what's possible, showing kind of the frequency and the energies that we're going to play with within our life cycle. And I use it to support my clients in, number one, understanding yourself. That's key. When anybody who's in an online space or as an entrepreneur, you need to know who you are. So we use it as a personality assessment, but I also use it to help people create content on a regular basis and stay consistent with it, content that actually resonates with their audience because we're speaking to a collective energy. I help people develop offers, transformational offers using numerology because there is a divine timing cycle to all of it that's spoken about in the numbers. I use it to help people have better sales conversations because if you know who you're speaking to, then it gets easier to have that conversation instead of just cookie cutting the whole thing, right?
Mhm.
And I also use it for planning and strategy because there is a rhythm to our life and to our business that allows us to see when it's time to take massive action or when it's time to pull back, when it's time to be networking, those types of things. So, I mean, that's a rabbit hole that you could dive down to for thousands of years and never discover all of it, but it's pretty magical.
Wow. That is, I've heard of, that is pretty magical. I've heard of cardology. Is that what?
Yeah, it's different. It's different.
Okay.
It is similar. It's got the same because you're still using a deck of playing cards.
Right.
The thing with this Egyptian numerology is because we're using cardology is just the card itself. But with this system of numerology, there's only about 1,500 of us on the planet who actually do what I do.
Mhm.
And we're combining traditional Pythagorean numerology with the suits and our intuition. So cardology, you can actually just Google and find out what the card means, and you're going to get some cool information. But without the intuitive part of it, you're missing out on so much more. So, I've been guests on podcasts before where people ask, well, is there any books out there that people can read? No, not yet. They're coming because this system has been hidden for so long. There's actually only one book out there, and it's a very difficult read. And it was written in the 1800s by a man who was given access to secret libraries where this information is held. And he was allowed to take certain information and bring it out, but it's very minimal. So this is an intuitive science that is becoming more mainstream. And I do know that there is a book coming out in September or October by some colleagues of mine. So
Wow.
yeah,
I'd be really interested in that.
yeah. So am I. I can't wait to see the book. Yeah.
Um, so when you work with clients, do you work in groups, one-on-one? How does all that look?
Yeah, I have a combination of different ways of working with me. Numerology readings are very personal, so those are one-on-one. And I have different offers around, different types of numerology readings based on what you're looking for. Numerology works best when you have context. I can give you a generic reading and you're going to be like, yeah, that's super cool. But if you have a specific question, just like tarot, if you've got a question that you want answered, we can go looking specifically for that answer. So I have a different range of readings that I offer. But I also have a membership that's launching here in a couple of weeks that gives people an opportunity to work with me kind of in those bite-sized chunks and micro strategies. I also have a group coaching program. It's actually a hybrid. You get a little bit of private and group that helps people build an online business. They walk away with the complete ecosystem of an online business. And then I do have private coaching as well.
That's awesome. So because this podcast isn't actually going to be posted until like October, you'll have all of this up and running by then.
Yes, absolutely.
So as y'all are listening, she already has it.
Yeah.
And I will put the link below so that you can get access, because yeah, I might join.
There you go. Yeah. The membership itself is I'm really excited about, because I've been looking for a way to not only just, I've got a lot of people in my audience who are just interested in numerology. And I
Yeah.
don't teach numerology. If somebody wants to learn numerology, I do have somebody that I highly recommend. But for me, it's about the forecasting and the play and the understanding the nuances of it without me actually teaching it. And that's, the numerology is going to have a combination of numerology and business strategy. So I'm super excited about that, because I finally figured out how to bring it together.
That is so cool. So if I'm hearing you correctly, what you're saying is that you're going to present, with numerology, there's optimal times. It's like with astrology, there's optimal times to be doing something based on where the stars are lining up for you specifically, because we're all here with a purpose. And it's kind of like, instead of pushing against the river, you're just flowing with the stream, because you know where the stream is going and how to ride the current.
Yes, absolutely. And it's interesting you bring up astrology. I've actually been studying astrology now for a few years, and it is complicated. It's very complicated. And whenever I read somebody who's doing an astrological forecast, I'm like, I'm lost in all the conjuncts and squares and things. That's what I love about numerology. It is simple. It's so simple. And I mean, the latest trend right now is human design. It's very popular out there. And I agree that it's an excellent system. No knock to human design whatsoever, but numerology is more accurate.
It's complicated.
Yes, yeah,
Just
anybody
like,
can become a numerologist. It's so simple and so accurate, and these other systems are just complicated. Interesting, you had asked where this Egyptian numerology came from. All other systems of, for lack of a better word, divination. It's not divination, but the word's not coming to me, but all other systems are actually developed out of numerology. So if you look at tarot cards, they all have numbers on them, and they directly relate to numbers. Oracle cards, numbers. The Bible, filled with numbers. Human design, filled with numbers, right? There's astrology, filled with numbers. So everything eventually comes back to numbers.
yeah, they really do. It's
The simplest.
and it's usually like just a small segment of the numbers. We're not talking about big numbers here. It's like
No.
1 to 10.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
not
and
even 10, but 11 and 22.
yeah, and I
That's it.
honestly, like, I look at numerology as there's only 9 numbers in existence plus the 0, right? And a lot of numerologists leave the 0 out. It's very important. But yeah, there's really only 1 through 9, and anything else is just a combination, and we can just reduce it down. So yeah, it's very simple. There's only 9 influences, really.
I love that about it. It's like,
That's another way to avoid burnout, is keep things simple.
right. And not have to spend all your time guessing.
Yes.
Because the definitions of each of them are pretty straightforward. And I'm a 6 life path. So, and you know, I read it makes total sense to me. And I know that there's times when I should be doing things and times when, you may as well just go and meditate in the woods because it's going to work for you anyway.
Exactly. I love that. Yeah, the six is like, I always look at the six as like this ping pong ball that's going from one side of the trajectory to the other. And your job as a six is to find that equilibrium, the proverbial balance, right? But you're either way over here or you're way over here, and you're always trying to find this place right here in the middle, right? Yeah.
And as soon as you find it, it feels like, oh, I think I'm here. And then you're back to the
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. The great equalizers of the world are the sixes. Yeah.
a tough job, but somebody's got to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's interesting. A lot of people are like, oh, I wish I was this number, but there's no better number. We all just have what we have. And it's about learning to work with your strengths and learning to bring in the support around those that aren't strengths so that you can equalize a little bit. Yeah.
The enneagrams are kind of like that too. I think there's only like 9 of those.
Yeah. I tried to figure out how the Enneagram and numerology work together, and it's again complicated. I never did find the bridge there. So yeah, I'm not quite sure how they figured out the numbers for the Enneagram.
I don't think they're numbers. Well, I guess they are numbers.
Mhm.
You have a number assigned to you, but and nobody's just all one thing
No.
with their combinations of things. And
Mhm.
um we are all unique. We're like little snowflakes out there. As much
Yep.
as the world would like for us to be all the same and homogenized, I think
Just
that
not,
world would be so boring.
it would be so boring if we all had the same opinions and the same thoughts. No, thank you.
Yeah. But I'm looking for a world where people can just be valued for their thoughts and opinions.
Yeah.
And it's okay. And they don't have to share yours. And that we can individually just accept who we are and be happy with who we are.
Yeah. A world of belonging. That was spoken like a true six, by the way.
Yeah, I'm sure it was.
Yeah,
Because
but I,
I own it, girl.
yeah, it's just a world where everybody belongs, right? Like, yeah, yeah.
Everybody belongs and nobody has to be right.
Mhm.
Everybody can be right. And we can just exist together in connection because that's who we are. We are all connected and we all belong together. We just have been trained to be polarized in and everything. It's
Yeah.
just like throw those people out. I don't want to do that. I just want to
Yeah,
explore what you think.
yeah, yeah, I agree.
So, what would your one thing that you would suggest to people if they wanted to explore this further with you? How could they do that?
Yeah, definitely take a look at the membership. I think that would be an excellent place to start. Because that's where I'm going to just introduce little things. It's little bite-sized chunks where you can get a feel for it. Numerology, when you start to learn it, can be a little overwhelming because there is
Oh,
so
yeah.
many rabbit holes and so much information. Just like astrology, you can go and explore the whole universe with it. And so starting out with those bite-sized chunks in the membership would probably be the best idea. And then deciding if you want to learn it, I can point you in the right direction. Or if you just kind of want to hang out and play, we can do that together too. Yeah.
Because every time you start down that numerology path, it doesn't just stop with you. I mean, then there's your spouse or your
Yeah.
partner and your kids and your
You're gonna figure
parents and
everybody.
you know your best friend, the mayor.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. I've even done numerology reports on like the election. I've done numerology on different countries. I can actually look at your business numerology as well, and based on your business date of birth and see what's happening there. The rabbit holes are endless.
Yeah, it's just like there might only be 10 numbers, well, 9 and the 0, but
Mhm.
they're just like there's so much you can do with them.
There's so much.
It's infinite, actually,
Yes.
because that's where those numbers come from. So Cindy, this has been an amazing conversation. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank
What's
you.
the one thing you hope the audience takes away from our chat today?
Well, you know what? I think you brought it up, is that no matter who you are, what you're doing in the world, or what your opinions are, you belong. You belong. And your community is out there just waiting for you to show up and shine your magic. So wherever that is for you, go shine your magic.
Well, I love that. Thank you for joining me.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. It's such an honor.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another empowering episode of the You World Order Showcase podcast. We hope you've enjoyed hearing from our incredible life, health, and transformational coaches who are making a profound impact on the world. Remember, change begins with you, and you have the power to transform your life and the lives of others. If you want to take that next step and unlock your true potential, visit thecoachesalchemist.com, where you can find the 3 ways we can help you for free to spin your talent into gold with clarity, a system, and a plan. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an inspiring episode. And if you enjoyed today's show, we'd greatly appreciate it if you could leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback means the world to us and helps us reach more people with our positive message. Stay connected with us on social media for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and upcoming guest announcements. You can find us on Facebook at the You World Order, or simply visit thecoachesalchemist.com.